All right. Since it's been an extra week, I figured I would do a quick rundown on everything that happened last session, just to make sure everybody is in the everybody knows what is happening in the moment as we start. Last time we started out facing off against the 3 boggart warriors. With the looming threat approaching, there was a decision to make: stand to fight and risk being overtaken by the beast that approached, or get out of there. Right? Cut your losses, see what may happen, see if you would get followed, what might happen. Choosing the former, you all went into combat, quickly overwhelming the boggarts who had evidently gotten in over their heads. Within a matter of moments, 2 lay dead, with the largest of the 3 looking to escape. As the beast from the swamps approached, and as the beast from the swamps approached, and despite not being able to get the finishing blow off onto the fleeting boggart, the 5 of you rushed away as fast as you can, finally now getting into the drier parts of the swamp with surer footing. Torsten, you would lead the group through a collection of trees to attempt to stall the creature, and thankfully it worked, leaving the creature far behind as it got caught up in the tangled mess. You made for the road through the swamp. After some hard traveling, you finally arrived, several of you kind of throwing yourselves down to catch your breath, eat, do some minor patch-up work, and take care of whatever lingering injuries you may have acquired. While some of you rested, Menon and Anister, the 2 of you went out to investigate some ruins nearby. An old stone building reclaimed by the swamp. Hard to tell exactly what the place was prior, but as the 2 of you investigated, it was clear that there had been some recent activity. An altar of sorts was built with the remnants of whatever animal used in the ritual kind of left behind. Very clear runes to you, Anister, that were obviously connected with the runes found on the corpses back in Mictlan Kos, headed for the crematory forges. Beyond the very clear necromantic nature of the ritual, you both also pieced together that this was the ritual used to create the strange amalgamation creature that you had previously encountered. Taking a quickly drawn sketch of the rune as evidence, you both returned, and despite the tracks left behind, it was decided to continue towards the lost worksite, as there was no way of knowing how long ago the ritual had been completed, and if the tracks that you'd followed would lead to fruitful evidence. So you continued your journey along the safe part of the road until just before reaching the point where you would have to dive back into the swamps to get to your intended destination. A wagon would come rushing by, clearly marked as the carriage of a very wealthy Akari family. Speaking to the coachman, you'd come to learn that this carriage, as well as the personal guard of the Lord within, had been attacked on the road by something fitting the description of the creature that you'd already faced. The carriage had rushed ahead to safety, trying to make it to Mictlan Kos, while the guards stayed behind, defending their lord. The carriage, there was a very obvious relief to the driver, as they thought they may have been losing their mind, seeing what they had seen on the road. With all of you kind of, I guess with 2 of you, Anister and I believe Menon, reiterating that what had been seen was not unique so far. And so, this lord was set to meet with the ironmonger's table, and you would request that they would send word that they had seen you on the road with more information to come, which they agreed to do. As they left, you finally reached the point where you'd continue your journey into the swamps, but it was suggested that maybe instead you head to see if you could potentially help the guards. Unfortunately I didn't write the note down on exactly who suggested that, but it was definitely someone in the group. And so, with a second look at the initial path forward, you all started your way up the road, forgoing the worksite and committing to helping the guards. And that is where we pick up. So, let me get some things going really quick, and we should be good to go. So, okay. So, let's see. All right. So, we'll say 5, just to keep in line with as many people in the party, even though we are going to be for moving forward. So, as the 5 of you rush up the road, heading back the direction that you've kind of been traveling for a little bit, breaking into the swamp area where the trees kind of come up close near to the road, kind of hang over. And so, as the 5 of you kind of quickly race off in that direction, looking to see what you may see, it takes you some time. It's very easy to get to where you're going, but it would take you probably a good 20-25 minutes of hard running to finally get to the location. You are following the carriage tracks left in the mud, which kind of quickly leads you to where you need to go, even though there are several points where the swamp road kind of makes a break in random directions. And so, as you follow up from a distance, you can see clearly without having to make any kind of checks or anything. You see a very obvious sign of something happening in the road, or something that had happened in the road. Much of the natural kind of dirt of the road has been kind of kicked up and kind of spread all around. You see a small hump laid out in the middle of the road, which, based on the size at this distance, you can only assume is probably an unfortunately felled horse. But as you approach, you don't hear anything. There's no obvious sounds of battle. There's no screams for help, or even a more kind of visceral sound of potentially a creature feasting on one of the unfortunate souls. So, as you approach, with all things quiet, you can see there's very obviously some activity here, but what exactly happened remains to be seen. So, as you approach, is there anything anybody is looking out for specifically, wanting to do in this moment, as you kind of start to get a better view? Do you want to take it really slow, not rushing right into the middle of where everything happened? How would you guys like to approach this?
Annister's going to draw his rapier and look around, looking for signs of something, and just be really alert, basically.
Okay, absolutely. All right, so keeping your head on a swivel with your weapon drawn, I believe. Okay.
DM, could we like sneak up together? I don't know if the group has enough stealth between us, but it looks like we're quite light on our feet, right? We've got a rogue, and we've got a
Yeah, absolutely.
Robok's
for
not
sure.
here, so he's our guy in heavy armor. So
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, we'll say that Obok maybe decides to kind of stay back a little bit to kind of ensure that everything is safe on the opposite part of the road, right? So not necessarily involved in the sneak up. But yeah, I would say I guess the sneakiest of you is willing to make a stealth check. Whoever that may be.
Not Torsten. I'm at +4.
Okay.
I've got a +9.
We have a winner.
All right. So then, so Annister, go ahead and make a stealth check. Now I'll count this for the group, right? Jeez. All right. Wow. So, yeah, with an excellent, we'll say like a command, right? More of kind of leading the others, right? Annister, you kind of take, especially with your head on a swivel, right, and your weapon drawn, you slowly start to sneak up and kind of guide the others to kind of help them, avoid any obvious missteps or anything along those lines. And the 4 of you kind of, just slowly draw closer to the site of whatever event that has happened here. As you get closer, a few things are of note. There is just the single horse kind of laid out. Very obviously along its side it has been raked or scratched by some large claw or another. It's definitely not of the typical wound left behind by like a sword or an axe or anything along those lines. Whatever got a hold of this horse, unfortunately, just had the claws to kind of do some pretty visceral damage. But looking around beyond this horse and the location that it's in, for something as big as a fight, right? Between a number of guards, however many there might have been, there's no bodies left behind. There's a lot of movement in the ground, a lot of obvious signs of where people may have landed and kind of gotten up, you know, imprints of bodies that kind of hit the floor, but that's about it. And there's not very much blood, right? Other than the blood from the horse, which is considerable. Looking around this location, it doesn't seem like there's very much blood that you would expect, you know, if these guards had kind of been completely caught off guard and just, you know, torn to shreds. It doesn't have that same mess, I guess you could say. So
Does the horse have any like regalia or markings from the merchants that we met? Like, would we know that it's that guard's horse?
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, taking a look at it, not only does the horse have just some like, kind of basic horse armor, it does have the there's a term for it, but I can't remember off the top of my head. Basically like a horse tabard, right? There's a word for it.
Barding is the word you're looking for.
Oh, barding, is that what it is? Okay. Yeah. So it definitely does have, and it has the same. It's torn up from the long scratch down the creature's side, but it does have the same symbol of the carriage previously seen. So it is surely the a horse of one of the guardsmen. Keeping your head on a swivel. Actually, we can go ahead and give me a perception check as well. Got the weapon drawn. You've successfully kind of led everybody into 15. Okay. As you look around, trying to put some eyes on the tracks and what kind of movement has been going on in this area, you see what looks to be kind of like a very obvious drag mark. It pulls away, and it's about it is quite wide for it could either be like a horse that got dragged, or potentially a number of guardsmen, right, kind of pulled away through the mud, and you can see kind of slick where they were dragged, kind of leading off the road and into the kind of marshland.
Kind of wave my hands around to kind of get everybody's attention, say, in pointing at the drag spot.
Okay.
Are there any like footprints or anything, or is it just the?
Yeah, absolutely. So now that you see, right, this like drag mark, as you look closer, you can definitely see the creature that you had faced previously, the one with the many arms. It had like a more hoof-like foot to it, but as you look now, there are definitely some very large, like sinking into the swamp footsteps. They seem wider than the space that has been dragged, because each footstep is on either side of it, you know, by a bit of distance. And I would say each imprint into the ground is probably a good, we'll say like 15, 16 inches across. So whatever left this behind had quite the imprint, and it's completely flat, so there's no markings of strange claws or anything like that. As best as it can be described, as like an elephant's foot pressed into the ground.
Torsten, would you know any creatures that have this print?
Well, that's an interesting question, isn't it? Let me just take a look right here. There's plenty of big critters, but with a footprint like that.
16. You recognize it, but you do not recognize it as a creature that is native to this area. So, you've done enough kind of research on the various creatures that you may find, just kind of in the world generally. But this area of Calor specifically, you are not the one to come across one of these. But essentially, it is, as best as can be described, an elephant of sorts.
Well, I mean, by all accounts, it is what it appears to be, an elephant footprint. But there's no way elephants would be this down south. This ain't their habitat. And then I'll turn angrily towards Annister. Do you see? It's all wrong. Nature's in flux.
I have to agree with you. An elephant in a swamp? I just don't. That just doesn't make sense.
Kaya, listen to me. Also shaken by the lapels. None of it's right. None of it's right.
I want to do a society check right quick, or if that makes sense, to see if there's has there been a zoo? I mean, a traveling circus come through the city or something.
I'd say probably like society check. Like if there's been any like organizations that have brought any of these types of creatures into this area. But
Okay.
Yeah, we'll go society to see if we can.
All right.
14. Because it does have the pursuit lead attached, because this all is kind of connected, right? Certainly at this point, at least that's the impression you're starting to get, Annister. So with that in mind, you know that the elite of Mictlancoss have a penchant for procuring strange and exotic to this region animals, right? And kind of showing them off, and then eventually just kind of, when they've outlived their novelty, just kind of discarding them, right? Like a common thing is to, common, I guess, more of like an open secret, I guess, right? Is that when the novelties kind of faded from these exotic creatures, the wealth of Mictlancoss will either put the creature down or just kind of abandon them into the swamps, assuming that they'll just, right? They'll either live or they'll just fade away. So yeah, I would say that's about as much as you can kind of put together.
Okay. Well, Torsten, unfortunately, there is a possibility, and I don't like this idea, but if one of the more wealthier patrons of the city did procure one and it outlived its novelty, it may have been released. So, but this doesn't bode well. That's quite a large creature, and to be doing obviously a lot of damage out here.
Torsten will just spit on the floor and say, "So wasteful. They just want their exotic pets. Don't realize the damage it'll deal to the ecosystem.
Yeah.
There should be laws." Alright, calm down.
I'm hung up on something though. And now, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know a lot about elephants, but they usually don't have claws that can like gash through horse armor.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and
So
they usually do not drag themselves on the floor. This looks more reminiscent of a crocodile.
Oh, it's
My
a.
concern with
Go ahead.
my concern would be what we saw in the past, the amalgam. Are we seeing a different amalgam that may have taken an alligator and an elephant? I hope we don't find out this is true or not, but that is a possibility.
Would it have a log trunk? I don't want to imagine that. That's a bad image.
Unspeakable defilement of nature.
But what you said, Annister, interests me. That about nobles bringing in these beasts. Perhaps when we go back into town, maybe we should interview some of these people who are more interested in exotic animals and maybe see if they've been approached by or have any ties to the weird goings on. Maybe, I don't know.
I agree. I think that is a lead that we definitely should pursue.
In the meantime, though, we gotta watch out here. This creature's still gonna be here somewhere.
I mean, well, it's not here now, and the guard's not around. He's not calling out for help or anything. Maybe he's fine.
So the
Just we'll just look at the massive footprint.
Yeah, yeah.
The claw marks on the trees. Gonna give Manon a look.
I'm just saying, I don't want to fight a giant elephant crocodile. This sounds really frightening. I mean, I could handle it. Of course, I'm very capable. But maybe the guard's okay. There's no blood.
Swallowed him whole. It did.
the drag marks, they go into the swamp, but like, are there any others of where it came from? Or does it start in the middle of the road and go into the swamp?
Let me perception check. Anisha is kind of focused in, we'll say, on like about half of the encounter kind of area. So maybe you can kind of take maybe a bit of a wider berth as you kind of look around. I'll say there's a, without having to, we'll just do the mental math on it, or just a +2 to whatever you roll. So 20 total. Yeah, so as you take a look, there is yeah, absolutely, there is another patch where it's kind of easily missed, maybe in the mix, like the madness of whatever occurred in the middle of this encounter. There's certainly like an embankment on the opposite side, and as you kind of go and look down, that embankment, which kind of looks a bit natural in the moment, as you see the opposite side to it, becomes very clear that whatever this massive creature is, that this, amalgamation creature that was involved here, has actually kind of forced this mound up and onto the side, right? Like moved an enormous amount of earth with its body, right? Kind of like pushing up and maybe springing up out of the ground. It's hard to tell exactly, but there is evidence that suggests that from the opposite side, the creature would have kind of emerged and rushed into the roadway. And looking at the footprints and the way things go, it definitely looks like it approached from one way and left the other way. And we'll say that the way that it left is is what Annister has kind of spotted out, and you're kind of seeing where it kind of descended onto the road. And covered in a large amount of mud, but just, we'll say you probably, it's almost like an optical illusion where you see it and then you see one part of it, you recognize what it is, and then you kind of see the whole thing kind of form. Packed underneath a large amount of mud, there's appears to be, let's say you see the gleam of a helmet that is kind of, if you didn't spot it, it would have just looked like part of the dirt that just kind of, you know, and the mud that just kind of got slicked over by the body of this creature. Yeah, but you see a helmet kind of barely kind of protruding from the mud.
I try to give it a quick excavation to see if it's, well, connected to anything.
Okay. Yeah, so you jump down the embankment, because it is about a 5-foot drop or so. So you kind of quickly scale down and kind of go to grab and see what you can do. The helmet is still attached. As you kind of pull it off, clearly as you know, unleash it from the mud, there is a very grim sight looking back at you. The still features of a human guard that has been laid low. Much of the body is buried underneath the muck. So, like, as of right now, the only thing you're seeing is like the face, basically, the head.
I called the rest down
Okay, absolutely.
to have a look.
Well, I guess there's no one to rescue.
I would say you get the impression that when spoken, or the way the coachman would have spoke, it seemed like there were multiple guards. This seems to be one. Like it was always spoken in the plurality, right? Like guards.
It could be survivors. Can't rule it out.
Yeah, I agree with Torsten. I think there may be more survivors. I think we should proceed cautiously, but we should move forward to see if there's anyone we can help.
Should we try to give this poor fellow a proper burial?
Shouldn't we first examine him to see kind of what we're up against? Like, are there any markings on his body, or did he just die of mud drowning?
Good question.
You attempt to excavate him from the mud?
Yeah, I will. And then if I can use a medicine check, I'll check for wounds and whatnot.
Okay. We don't. I think we can forego the medicine check. As you kind of dig down into the mud, no check requirement here. You see where the head is, so you kind of reach down. You kind of feel for the shoulders and get your hands are kind of up to your elbows in the mud. But you eventually kind of curl around to essentially kind of get like an underhook right underneath the armpit. And as you kind of lift, it gives way very easily, and then as you kind of pull back with strength, kind of expecting more to it, the rest of you see as Annister pulls out a basically from, we'll say, maybe halfway down the body, there's nothing. It is just the top, like, torso half of this unfortunate guardsman. The lower half And we'll say even more than just the lower half, because it was definitely, you know, more has been taken than just it's like, say halfway up like the stomach, right? So it's just like the very upper half of this unfortunate guard. So you kind of stand up quickly, and you're basically just kind of like holding this, you know, quarter of a body. Anister.
Well, it didn't end well for him, at least.
How does the like cut look? Is it very clean, or does it seem to have been torn, like with teeth?
Definitely teeth. Yeah, it doesn't seem clean at all. It seems not ripped, but certainly something just kind of snapped shut on him.
Yeah.
So, Epialis, I don't know. It was just this last one, but your mic got really low for me. I'm not sure if that's just me. But...
It might be even just me. I need to move the mic a little bit closer to me.
Okay. But so, yeah, as you kind of stand there with this quarter of a torso, right? Just the upper half, the upper body, you know, from the chest down, or chest up, I should say. Yeah, very obviously, some wild creature with a large, you know, maw, I guess you could say, snaps shut on this body.
Well, I may not be the group's investigator, but I've got an idea about how he might have died. Creature must be strong, though, to bite a man clean in half. We should be very careful.
It's probably a crocodile, but it's gotta be big.
Maybe we're looking at the aftermath of a similar encounter to ours. The guards fought the amalgam, and then whatever this is emerged during the fight, and very swiftly ended it. Maybe we are looking at something something much much bigger than the amalgam.
I agree with that. I think we are looking at something much bigger than the amalgam, or we're looking at a variant.
Because you've been following this lead, Anister, I would say your intuition, because a lot was revealed with the altar, right? The creature that was left on the altar had hooves, right? Seemed like the remains of like a horse of some sort. And I think there was a connection there, either Menon made it or Anister made it. I think maybe both, because you both rolled really high. I remember that for sure. But the connection was that whatever is creating these amalgams is using kind of creatures to spur it along. And the assumption would be then that the amalgam is kind of based on the creature used in the ritual. So your intuition tells you that if the creature that you know bit through this this guard and kind of slid away, certainly could have been the case that they used one of these larger creatures like the elephant or an alligator to create an amalgam.
also tell the group, my suspicion is that, yeah, I still think that these amalgams we're running into, there's not a single type. Whoever's creating them is using, lack of a better term, what's available or what meets their needs, kind of like customizing these creatures. So I have a feeling the first one we met was made up of what was nearby. Unfortunately, the townsfolk and the horses. Now we ran into something that's obviously using most likely an elephant, an alligator, and those are the only two that we know of. This thing could even have other pieces and parts added to it.
Listen, there's no point speculating about it. We'll be here all day. What we need to do is make a decision about whether or not we're going to try following this thing's trail.
I agree. I think we should follow it. I think I personally would like to make sure, one, that there's no survivors if we can save them and prevent them from becoming part of the amalgam. I think that's my goal. I think that we should pursue. Stop it, and at the very least, stop this thing from rampaging in the swamp so it doesn't kill or harm any other bystanders.
Ikaya, if you're looking for evidence that something's off in the swamp, this is probably the best you're going to find.
I agree. Can you give an estimate of how fresh these tracks are?
Yeah, without having to make a check or anything, the tracks are certainly fresh, like within the past 30 minutes at least. Very fresh. Seeing as how when the carriage rushed by, right, it only took you about 30 minutes after that to get to where you are now, right? So with the speed of the carriage, to get from where the carriage was or where the carriage met you on the road to here, rushing at that pace would probably only be maybe like 5 to 10 minutes max. So you all like running 30 minutes is probably right, a decent. So yeah, these marks, everything here is very fresh. Like even the body, like as you kind of lift it up out of the mud, there's probably still like fresh blood kind of escaping the quarter body. Same with the horse. It's definitely not been long since whatever happened here happened.
All right. Let us press forth.
Manon's gonna draw their rapier ready in case something jumps out.
Okay. I think we'll be getting our 5th party member. So, just send me a message. But he's actually got a open time, so you might be jumping in a little bit late. But okay, so you prepare, right? You draw your rapier. You are on guard for the as you all kind of make your way down, following along and essentially tracking, but it doesn't take much skill to track this, right? The space that is kind of sliding against the ground, creating this, like pulling mud effect, is large, right? It's so large that it's not like subtle in any way. You can just easily follow it. Same with the large, like left behind elephant like imprints into the soft earth, right? They are massive and cannot be missed, right? You purposely be trying to not. So yeah, as the 5 of you now follow along, I guess to give a quick rundown, Obak, essentially they came to the spot where everything had happened. There was a strange marking, it's like a sliding effect along the mud that was left behind, very wide, as wide as a horse, potentially, or just, about as wide as a horse, with two massive, almost like elephant-like imprints left on the ground on either side. And they found one of the bodies of the guards, but again, it was guards, so the assumption here is that maybe, the others are still potentially, you'd be able to save them potentially, or at least, figure out where this creature is and what's going on with it. So that seems to be the direction we're heading now.
This one sounds bigger than the other. Not just people involved in this recipe.
Correct. At least that's our speculation at the moment.
So, as the five of you kind of descend down the opposite side of the bank on the opposite side of the road and start to follow along the trail. You can see in the distance up ahead. You can still see it in the mud and in the swamp itself, right? You draw closer, just kind of continue along. Are you attempting to move along stealthily, or are you just essentially just kind of rucking it through the swamp, trying to just catch up to it as fast as possible? I guess that's what I'm asking is how fast of a pace are you putting on when trying to track down this creature? Is it normal? Is it slower because you're trying to go a bit more stealthy, or is it faster than normal, right? Just rushing to catch up to it.
I guess fast, but trying to keep a lookout for any stragglers or survivors that might be to the wayside.
Fair enough. Okay. All right. So as you as the five of you kind of descend down, you're moving at a quick pace, trying to catch up to this creature as best as you can, and every so often, as you are following along, you'll see like a scrap piece of armor, right? Something that maybe fell off of the main piece of armor. One of the the survivors potentially, right, leading a path behind them. Or you'll see the barding, right, from one of the horses, right, kind of a bit of tatter kind of left off to the side. So there are definitely hints and clues that the creature itself not only moved this way, but maybe was chasing after. Maybe the guards kind of rushed away into the swamps on horseback or on foot. But in any case, there are signs that there was certainly a struggle. Any path left behind by the guards or the horses, certainly kind of covered up by the massive body of the creature as it kind of moved along. Especially if it was kind of right on their trail. So with these signs kind of putting themselves out, eventually you follow along, and there is an open, kind of like a swamp lake, right? I guess a pond is a better word for it. It is a patch of deep water, and you can follow along the outer kind of like ring of it, but you can also see clearly across, and we'll say it's probably about like 60 feet of swimming. You can see clearly across the opposite side where the same kind of indentation in the ground, the sliding physique kind of left behind by this large creature. You can see kind of clearly where it went into the water and then kind of came out on the opposite side. It would likely be faster to swim it, but safer to go around. As you kind of come to this point, you have a decision to kind of circumvent the little kind of swamp, pond, I guess you can call it, like a large pond, or just dive right in and just keep going in a straight line to kind of catch up to the creature.
Well, do we all know how to swim?
Not particularly.
So I think if we can't all swim it, we should go around.
Yeah, I
Yes.
agree. I think we need to play this one safe because whatever this is, it's going to be big.
Okay,
Just guessing by the tracks.
fair enough.
Plus, we don't know how intelligent this creature is. It
Hmm.
could be a trap.
So,
Let's hope not.
yeah. Deciding not to jump in and to take the slower but safer way around, you start to kind of circumvent, kind of go around one half of the pond. So let me. And so as you start to make your way around, all 5 of you give me perception check. Okay. Oh, let's see. I think that would actually be 1 higher because of your level up, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so it would be 1 higher, but it's still a bad roll. So, okay. All right, Manon. As you've with that insight, right, the intelligence of this creature, and the idea that it may be a trap of some sort, right? You're very, very cautious as you kind of go around. You've kept your eyes on this, this swamp kind of pond, pretty closely, right? Maybe looking at the path forward, but continuing to kind of, jot your eyes just in case, right? Just in case it's a trap or anything of the sort. And with a 21, you're gonna see. While the others are kind of like, trudging through a particularly kind of difficult part as you make your way around this pond, you're going to see a kind of billowing of bubbles momentarily, and it kind of shakes the top of the water, and then it just kind of settles. And I would say it happens so fast, you kind of see the bubbles kind of come up, escape to the top, and then this kind of vibrating, and then it kind of just settles, and it happens faster than, like, if you wanted to point it out to someone. By the time somebody like turned their head and kind of looked really quickly, the water would kind of be settled and just, as if nothing had happened. But you saw it for sure.
Oh, jeez. Well, I'll point it out anyways,
Yeah.
whether or not they see it. And I'll kind of mention there's definitely something in the water.
Yeah.
How murky is the water?
It is quite murky. Yeah. Like, you can see, if you put your hand down into it, you might have a couple of maybe like a foot of visibility before it kind of got really, dark. So yeah, quite murky. I will say, for sure though, it does not, because you saw the ponds earlier. You saw the where Obak had tried to, thinking it was Anister, right? Put his not spear, whatever weapon Obak has down, right, and kind of like try to pull. You recognize those bubbles, but whatever made this is certainly not the same, right? It's different. It's a whole different thing. So whatever is down at the bottom of this, or whatever made it, if it's, if it is anything, it's not the same as the others, right? So, for sure. I would say you have a good intuition at the very least that it is not more of those boggart, the kind of frog swamp people.
Should
I
I stick
suppose-
my Gasarm in? Obok says as he walks towards the edge. I don't have a good
Oh.
track record.
Maybe not, the main thing that you used to fight.
Obok will look
Maybe,
around for a long branch.
yeah.
Hmm.
Maybe we can do some fishing.
Okay. So, as Obok and Madden kind of quickly look around for a branch of some sort to try to fish around in this this pond. I'm gonna say, I mean, at the very least, logically, it probably occurs to Torsten and Annister, particularly Annister, right? You got pulled down and like almost drowned in the bottom of like one of these kind of pit holes. But it probably and Akai as well, because the creatures kind of burst out and chased after you specifically. Last time you tried something like this, it did not go so well. So there's, I'm not sure. It's up to you to play it, but it probably occurs logically. Like, wait a minute, this didn't go so well last time.
Obok
Maybe we
continues
should,
to look for a branch.
Yeah.
Fine, it's fine.
maybe we
I'm
should
gonna-
let sleeping frogs lie.
I agree with Akaya. I
Wait,
don't know if I want to mess with the frog again.
but if we're searching for this presumed
Yeah.
amalgam, and the tracks led here,
And there's
and
big
we're looking for-
bubbles. Yeah. Yeah.
Let me rejoin. There you go.
we took down those frogs pretty easily.
I mean, sure, we ran from the other thing, but this can't be that bad, right?
Do the tracks extend on the other side of the pond?
They do, but again, it's quite a bit away, so you can't see. Like, you see where it would have surfaced and kind of come out, but you can't see very much past it, right? Because there's tall reeds and things of that nature. So while it's very easy to follow when you're on the track itself, from an angle such as this, you can see the beginning of it, but you can't see past it. So again, I guess this kind of goes in line with the concern that Menon had kind of previously kind of vocalized. How intelligent is this creature? Is it smart enough to kind of breach the other side and then turn around and dip down if it feels like it's being followed? Is this a
could go
trap
through the
set?
tracks
Yeah.
and then throw a branch in to see if anything happens, and then by the time if something does pop up, we're where we need to be. We can just dash into the reeds.
Obok will look to Torsten for guidance.
GM, anything I can roll here to get a sense of how to handle this?
Well, you rolled a perception. I would say something like this. It's kind of weird. Because I guess the question is like, would it occur to the character rather than the player, right? So I'll say since Torsten's highest stat is wisdom, correct?
Yeah.
So since Torsten is quite wise, wisdom would tell you probably to check the tracks first, because if the creature is intelligent, right, and it is just essentially waiting to be disturbed, I mean, I guess wisdom would also tell you that if the creature is what you might think it might be, as large it is or as dangerous it might be, it doesn't really matter where you disturb it from, right? But to be sure,
Perhaps
this
put it a
yeah.
different way. With my 18 in perception, we're trying to discern if the thing's intelligent. Is the spot that it's resting in? Does it appear to be a good spot for an ambush? Do I spot any allies waiting in the trees or the bushes?
Yes, I'll
Is there
say.
anything about
Yeah.
is there anything about the setup that makes me think that it might have been led here deliberately, or is it just like acting like a wild animal?
Depending on the creature that it is, and the assumption that it's an alligator, right, or an amalgam from some type of gator creature, this would be home, right? This would be the perfect kind of place to rest, right? If the creature's full, right? If it's had its fill, it could have potentially kind of
Okay, so it looks like
dove
a fairly natural lair. It doesn't look like an ambush location.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But that being said, if it were an ambush location, it looks like a pretty fucking good one too, right? Because if the creature's like a gator of some sorts, in this location where where you're at, would certainly benefit the creature.
Okay, and with an 18 of perception, I don't spot any allies of it around. There's no other creatures that I can see that might threaten us.
No, yeah. Right now you feel. I mean, you don't even hear much of wildlife other than like bugs of the swamp, right? You don't hear any kind of reeds moving. You don't hear splashes in the water from even fish that would be out in the swamps. So things seem very, very quiet here.
Okay, I'll sort of turn to the group and say, I don't think it's trying to trap us. Seems like it's just retreated to its lair after a meal. If we're gonna act here, now might be the time, because it might be sleepy and off guard if it's been just eaten. But what say the rest of you?
With that, Obak will continue to look for a branch.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not. Yeah, this doesn't seem like too bad of an idea, but just to be on the safe side, I'm gonna find a place where I can hide.
Okay.
Home.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So I'm gonna drop into stealth, or attempt to drop into stealth.
Perfect. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's high reeds. You can easily kind of just duck down. Even with a bad roll. Your stealth is so high, right? You just kind of duck down, and before you know it, everybody just kind of looks around, and Annister is kind of like, I see you, right? Kind of, disappeared back into the reeds the same way Homer Simpson disappears into the hedge. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Annister hiding, keeping an eye on the situation, but certainly wanting to ensure your safety at the very least, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Akaya. So we know Menon and Obak are committed to
Yes.
finding out what's at the bottom of this. But Akaya, are you at all nervous about the situation, or are you just like, fuck it, we'll see what happens?
I'm a bit nervous, waiting to see what happens after investigating the beginning of the track, but if we find that, it's not lying in wait for us, I want to keep pressing on.
Fair enough. Okay. All right. I guess Torsten, you're fine with the potential attack here?
Yeah, this thing's a danger to the forest, and its corpse might be the proof we need that something's gone wrong here.
Fair enough. Okay.
So Torsten will have to have his shield and get ready.
Fair enough. All right. So we'll say you have your weapon drawn, and potentially, we'll say that to be fair, probably everybody here has their weapon drawn, considering the scope of the creature and things of that nature, right? There's probably like a very, very on edge feel here. So, yeah. So Obak, you kind of search around, and we'll say you find, something that fits the call for what you're attempting to do. And so you're gonna do it right here, or you're gonna kind of go check the tracks and then do it? Like, is the idea just we'll just do it right here?
The DM may want us to go check those tracks, guys. I'm getting a fourth wall break sense. Obak's too dumb. He looked to Torsten, who he sees as a wise individual, and he said, "Nah, let's rouse this creature from his nest." So Obak will just simply prod where Manon said the bubbles came from.
Okay. All right. So meta-wise, it's definitely not. It's more of a "Are you sure?" sort of situation rather than a "Go ahead and go look." Right? Please go look. You're free to make whatever decisions you want as a group, but obviously. I'll say to poke and prod where you need to. You're probably gonna have to get into about half.
Oh,
Well,
wonderful.
well, you're a
Oh, wait.
dwarf. You're a dwarf, so you probably have to get probably
It's my nip.
chest to
let's
neck.
go. Chest deep.
Sorry, man, you were saying something? I couldn't quite hear you.
Throw it.
Uh,
Throw it.
Oh yeah,
Sure.
like
I'll try and javelin this
All right,
massive log or whatever exactly I'm holding here.
fair enough. How strong? What's your just base? It's like 18.
If
18.
we
Alright.
tie a rope to it, we can lead it in like a fishing pole.
Okay.
Yep, gumbo down the swamp. That sounds good.
You can always let go of the rope. You don't have to hang on to it.
Fair enough. So you tie a rope, and at the very least you can get the log back if you need to. If the throw doesn't go well of some sort. But I will say with an 18, you definitely have the strength to do it, right? No issue there. So we'll just say you kind of take your stance at the edge, at the bank of this swamp lake, and just kind of chuck the massive log, or not even a massive log. We'll just say like a decent sized log. Just kind of chuck it right out into the middle, and you see it kind of pierce down into the water, disappear, go down underneath the depths, and then only just like a few moments later, the log will kind of rise and just kind of start to bob along the top of the water. And that is when it is very obvious to all five of you, as you are watching the log, I'm going to say, a cascade of bubbles erupts from underneath and kind of, shakes the log on top of the water. And then there's that rippling kind of vibrating effect along the scape of the water. And then it kind of settles. Definitely disturbs something. As you wait a few moments, as the water kind of vibrates and stops, and then the water itself kind of just settles flat. The log just continues to bob. You have the rope attached to it. You want to start to pull it back in.
At this point, Obak would just have his Gisarm out. He
Disarm.
feels as though the log has served its purpose.
Okay. All right. Just holding on to the Gisarm. Manon, you start to, one arm would be kind of tough.
Yeah.
Start to pull in the.
No, I have my.
Oh yeah, for your rapier drawn as well. Okay.
But there's definitely something in there.
Definitely something in there. Log just kind of bobbles there for a moment. Nothing seems to be happening.
Well, that was a fun experiment.
So Obak will sigh, lean down, pick up the rope, and start pulling. And then, as if he's gonna try to throw it again once it gets to shore. But if it has other effects, well, we'll find out, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, so you pull it in. Let's see if it has other effects. You pull it in just fine. You get back to the shore, kind of pull it up out of the water, kind of ready yourself to take a second javelin toss with this log. And you shoot for it, right? Just throwing it right in. And maybe with a bit of a better idea, you're able to kind of direct it a lot more, right? So you kind of throw it maybe with even more strength behind it, right? It kind of really pierces down into the water. Just quickly kind of disappearing underneath, and then erupting to the top. And again, this cascade of bubbles. After the log kind of comes up for a moment, this cascade of bubbles, and then that vibrating effect, just shaking the top of this water like a speaker of sorts, right? But with the second one, you're gonna see part of the water, almost like a fin of some sort, kind of erupt through in like a quick kind of swirl, and kind of kicks up water that kind of splashes in your direction and kind of cascades down and like almost like a Shamu, right? Like 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 how the fucking the whales would just like throw water on people. Kind of like a quick glance of that. But the fin or whatever that you saw it was that kind of erupt from the water and break out and kind of toss this water off in the direction that you are from. It's definitely not. I would say it's definitely worrisome. It seems scaled and green, but you only saw it for like a flash, and then the top of the water of this lake is going to start to kind of move as if something underneath it is causing like a disturbance underneath the water that is so great that it is affecting the top half. And I'm going to say for all 5 of you, despite the mud being what it is and the dirt underneath you being soft, you feel like like a Jurassic Park effects, right? Like the boom, right? That kind of shakes the water just a little bit, as like the T-Rex approaches or whatever. That's like the effect. But you feel it in the ground, right? Kind of come up through your feet. Something is at the bottom of this lake, and it is now moving, and it is heavy enough to still create like a vibrating effect as its feet start to kind of trample and potentially climb its way out of this lake. And I'm going to say you're all kind of prepared. You have your weapons ready. You are looking and seeing what this creature might be. You're going to start to see just underneath the water some form of figurehead, long snout, and 2 massive tusks, as if you as if you jammed on 2 elephant tusks on the side of an alligator's jaws, and it slowly starts to kind of pierce up and out of the water. The first thing you see are the tusks kind of breaking the water and lifting up and out. The head of this creature is massive enough to swallow one of you whole. So as you kind of you've disturbed this creature, and seeing it now, you're almost certainly that this is the one that you've been following down into the swamp. And as its head starts to break through the massive jaws, the row of serrated teeth waiting, before the creature's eyes have even kind of pierced up out of the water, is there anything anybody wants to do?
I knew it.
Very smart.
Not at all.
Well, yeah. You could argue. So, but yeah, I'll say you have let's say a whole round. I would say you have an action, a single action that you can take before this creature kind of erupts out, and we'll be looking at initiative. So, because you've almost pseudo surprised / almost in a way like ambushed it yourselves, I'm gonna give you like as it's breaching the water, give everybody a single action, whether you use that to run or make a strike or anything along those lines.
Yeah, I'm gonna run.
Okay.
I want my full movement speed between me and this creature.
Okay. So you're just gonna rush away to, at the very least, potentially draw it onto land, right? Where maybe 30 feet away from water could certainly help, or 40.
Obok's not gonna like get away, but he's gonna definitely make room for it to hopefully come on land.
Okay. You take we'll say you take like a step back, right? Just kind of like, nearer to the bank, but essentially calling it forward, right? Like, come on. All right. Akaya.
Yeah, I'm moving away.
Okay, so full movement.
Yeah.
Torsten?
I think Torsten will sort of cast out his magic to the forest, so to the forest of the swamp, and try to sort of call on it for aid. And he's going to summon, cast a spell, summon plant or fungus.
Some plant or fungus.
And
Okay.
use it to summon a yellow musk thrall.
Let's see.
Unfortunately, we won't have any nice token for it, but
I believe we would if I have it in the bestiary. A yellow musk thrall is what you're looking for?
well,
We indeed have a yellow musk thrall with a nice token. Okay. So this is what you will call forward. Perfect. Alright. Anister, you were already hiding, but we'll say you hit a bit close to the bank, so what are you looking to do?
I'm going to try to stealthily move back from there. So hopefully it won't see me, with the theory that I'm going to attack it from behind. Hopefully.
Okay.
Move such a way where Obek and me, it's going to be between me and Obek is what
Okay.
I'm trying to do.
Okay, so put some space between you to where when it gets onto land, maybe it's got its focus a different direction than you, right?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So as you kind of dodgedly kind of slip into the reeds on the other side, roll me a stealth check. Actually, you're stealth, but you're moving through reeds and swords, so maybe there's a chance. I'll still say you've got like a huge bonus. It's probably like a +2 circumstantial bonus. So it's like a 19 total. Okay, yeah. Yeah, you just kind of quickly duck through the reeds. Doesn't look any unnatural in any way. So as it okay. So you've all spent an action to prepare yourselves as you kind of stand ready. The mass of this creature kind of bursts through the water, and essentially breaches itself up and onto, kind of throwing itself forward almost onto the swamp, bank and land. As it does so, the body kind of skids, and the force of the movement itself has kind of thrown it so forward that the mud underneath it kind of catches it and causes the creature to kind of glide out just a little bit. We'll say it Tokyo drifts, as it reaches the top and kind of just slowly turns. It keeps its focus on you, Obok, since you're the closest to the bank, as it kind of lands, breaches, and kind of slides with that mud moving underneath it, as it turns its attention to you directly. As it looks at you, again, what you see is the form of this kind of massive gator. There are the typical kind of more reptilian-like gator feet that the creature has, but it has an extra set, and these two massive, what look to be kind of like elephant legs and hoofs that kind of come off its rib cage down into the ground, giving it almost like a spider effect from 6 limbs. The creature's skin is like a mix of that gray elephant skin and that dark green gator with the scales kind of lifted and bubbled up, and then the two massive tusks erupting from the sides of its jaw as it opens its massive snout, revealing the many rows of teeth. And it kind of slaps it loud with this loud clapping sound that kind of bursts through the air, and it unleashes this just guttural kind of this like guttural deep effect that kind of shakes the ground that you stand on. I need you to make me in this moment it's almost this like primal sense of fear hits you, right? Like this to your core. I need you to give me a will saving throw really quick. Okay. 22. As this creature now stands before you, that that guttural kind of rumbling it unleashes in your direction after the massive kind of snapping jaws. You stand there for a moment, and I'll say only for a brief moment. Only you know, but you are kind of paralyzed in fear, and then in that same instant, right, recognizing your fear in this moment, you're just able to kind of shake it off and just prepare yourself for the battle as you kind of set your feet, grip onto the guisarme, and just kind of await what is to come. And as the creature kind of rears back, looking like it's going to throw itself forward to snap its jaws shut on you, I think because of the length of the combat, we're going to have to pause it here and pick up right into initiative next time as you face off the elephant alligator amalgam that you have disturbed from its potential slumber. So definitely a bit shorter, but I think because of the combat that's coming, and I'm going to tell like everybody now kind of meta wise, this is a tough one, so it might be one of those that kind of shakes out to be a bit longer, and unfortunately I can't stay over the normal amount of time that I would. So instead of like,
I understand. We shouldn't. We should be able to get it done next session. It shouldn't take more than like 2-3 hours. Or two. How long are the sessions again? Like 2 hours max.
like 2 to 2.5 max. So yeah.
Yeah. Plenty of time.
Okay. But yeah, we'll definitely get it done next time. I just don't want to jump into it now and then it like, because I've had it happen in the past. Yeah, I've had it happen in the past where we start a combat and then it's like, we gotta pause here. You know, it's like, oh shit, like in the middle of combat. So I'd prefer to like see it through. Good shit. I'm gonna sign out on the stream and everything. I'll be back in just a moment. But thank you all for playing. Looking forward to the combat next week. This is the big one. So we shall see how it goes. Just give me a few moments and I'll be back. But if not, have a good one. Appreciate you playing. All right. Thank you all for hanging out. Hope you enjoyed. Definitely a bit of a shorter session, but we are going to be jumping right back into combat next time. And again, we've had it happen in the past where players have, we've had to kind of end a session mid combat, and it's always kind of played out very weird. So in any case, thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you'd like to get involved, we're about halfway through this series of campaigns, which we'll be seeing to the end of the next later half session. If you'd like to get involved, the best place to be is in the Discord, as that is the place I reach out to first whenever I am looking to recruit for the next cycle of the games or just get people involved. If you'd like to also jump into the community, we have a very great community, a lot of fun people. We do a lot of creative stuff, and definitely invite anybody who would like to get involved to jump on in. In any case, though, thank you all for hanging out. I hope you had a good time watching. We'll be back this Monday to continue our Monday campaign, Valdiran Nights, the neo-noir urban situation. And so we are officially at the halfway point of all of our campaigns, so we'll be looking at the finale to all of these in the next 4 to 5 sessions. So thank you all. Hope you had a good day or good evening, depending on where you are in the world, and maybe we'll see you next time. If not, we'll see you when we see you. Peace.